Peace, yo. This is Brother Hatim. I'd like to welcome you to FreeStyle Fridays. The Geometry journey is on again. We're walking and we're going through our thoughts and we're trying to get the things we're going to talk about together. So bear with us as we stumble through the words, but get the message. Enjoy yourself. So before we even jump off into the show with me and my co-host Quasi Lowe, we want to send out shots to those things we love. First off, I want to send some shots out to Oxy Water, the world's first oxygen-enhanced mineral water. You can find Oxy Water Black, Oxy Water Pink, Cherry Pomegranate, Island Citrus, Passion Berry, and you can check them out for more information at www.tryoxywater.com. They even have a store locator for you so that you can find where to purchase their product. Also, we want to send shouts out to Orange 82, who provides us with our intro music. It's an electronic music label that's strictly web-based, and I call it surfer music because you can put the music on when you're tired, like I'm about to, right after I get done on this and do some work. You can check them out for some more music at www.orange82.com. Also, sending shouts out to the place where we meet at. Tonight we at the Shisha Lounge at 2369 North High Street. Feel free to come out and join us. I'm going to try to scrape some money together so that me and Quasi can get us a hookah, because it's hard times. In these hard economic times, we got to make things happen. Since I'm anti-fragile, I guess I could spare some change, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to work it out. I want to send shouts out to Unidaji Capoeira, led by Monitor Dentista. He has locations in Cleveland, Columbus, Dayton, Toledo, Chicago, and Decatur, Madison, Alabama. Remember, I'm sending some shouts out to them. The Batuzado is coming up in June, and it's going to be in Columbus, Ohio. So if you want to see some capoeira, some real ancient street fight type of shit, you need to come and check us out at Unidaji Capoeira. All right. Also, you can look them up on the web. Unidaji, Unidade Capoeira, Capoeira. Also, I want to send out shots to my original home, New Harvest Urban Arts Complex. With Kojo up there doing his thing, Sister Tress, and all the brothers up there trying to keep it going in the neighborhood. When you want to listen to some jazz on Saturday night, they got live jazz and live bands every Saturday night. Most of the time it's jazz, and they got a lot of plays and things going on, and they're working on some urban farming, so support them. It's New Harvest Urban Arts Complex. You can friend them on Facebook, or you could just type it in Google and find where they are. They're in Columbus, Ohio. Check them out. Also, be sure to check out my books. I got a new book coming out soon. I think it's called The Warrior's Path, the Geometry Method, Warrior Trainer Handbook, the Geometry Method. I'm still working the title out, but the material is pretty much done. I'm just having a few people glance over it so I can avoid some of the useless mistakes that I'm usually making. But you know it's all in love. I'm trying to get the information out to the world. About this lifestyle, about the tribe, about how to form tribes, and to keep things working, because we're coming into a time where we're going to need each other. We're coming into a time right now where the world is shifting from what it used to be to everything that it could become. And what it's going to become depends on the actions that you take. You can also check me out for further readings at www.geometryjourney.com. I'm working on Quasi to get his blog up, but you know how he is. Y'all, you hear him talk, y'all know what he do and shit. So we're gonna jump right into some conversation, and the first thing I want to hit on before Quasi go into his piece is I call it the $1 billion tweet that went out earlier this week, where it was reported that some hackers got onto the AP News wire. They got onto their Twitter site, and they tweeted out that the White House was attacked. 2 bombs exploded, and President Obama was injured. Now, this shows you how fragile the United States system is, our economic system, how fragile it is. And also, this also shows to me the power of cyber terrorism. Because this one tweet, think about this. This is why I call it the $1 billion tweet. This one tweet costed the markets between $130 billion and $250 billion. So those people who planned this, if they had some money on the market, we just funded another round of terrorism. What you think about that, brother Quasi?
Yeah, I have seen that. Yo, shout outs to everybody. I don't want to shout out to nobody in particular. Fuck all y'all, for real. Nah, I'm just playing. I love y'all. I'm on some rapper shit, some hip hop. I'm offending my fans. I'm sorry. Or my listeners. I ain't got no fans. But yeah, I stay up on my news. I seen that and I checked it out. I got a Twitter account and I don't tweet, so I wasn't really too intrigued by it. But then when I sat here and talked to Brother Hatem about it, I was like, I didn't know that it had something to do with alleged attacks and the president allegedly being injured. I think that's pretty wild, man. It's the fragile nature. What just came to mind when Hatem was saying that, though, like between 130 million and 200 or 130 billion and 250 billion. Why is everything always in ranges? Like they never know. Like that's $120 billion range. How the hell they don't never know? Like, can't you get specific? You could be within $20 or $30 or something. I mean, 100,000 at least. Like, goddamn, you $100 billion of not knowing exactly how much money was lost. Like, come on now, what's going on here? Why is everything always so spatial, so sparse? You know, I'm like, it just seems to me that's just another symptom of how the lack of control, how fragile this economic system is and everything that goes along with it. It's just too many question marks.
And also it shows the power of the new form of terrorism that will be hitting soon. Now, y'all, earlier this year, we heard about the Chinese having a special bureau that was just designed for cyber terrorism, for cyber warfare. So now we just got one of the first samples, at least one of the first public samples of cyber terrorism and the power of it. Because to be able to disrupt an economic system for a couple of minutes and extract that much money, or to cause that much money to be lost. Because I want you to think about this, because for me, it wouldn't be that hard for me to find who did this. Now, of course, somebody took credit. The Syrian Electronic Army supposedly took credit for it. So maybe this might be one of the reasons why Obama is not so quick to go into Syria, because possibly they might have a cyber unit that might be a little bit quicker and a little bit more entrenched in cyberspace than we thought. Maybe this was their warning shot. Y'all stay the fuck off our land, or we gonna fuck up your entire country through the internet. Because you could do it now, because we basically living in a virtual world that is controlled by cyberspace. We all got tweets, and all they got to do is send out enough tweets to get enough people panicking, and people going to the banks and snatching their money out, and the economy will go crazy, and we will go right back down to a point of depression. Now, I'm gonna also say this. One of the ways that I think that you could find out who did this is basically find out all the investors who was buying while everybody else was selling, and then who was selling right after the announcement came out that it was false. Because somebody, hopefully, I ain't gonna say, but if they were wise, they would have had people in place to start buying right when the market started falling. But then you got those motherfuckers out there who's betting on the system being fragile and waiting for opportunities like this. Because if I had some money and I got wind of that, I probably would have bought some stocks too, because I would have known that was some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And for it to be tweeted out and not broadcasted on the news would have also been a hint to me that it wasn't real. So now we're gonna move on to Brother Quasi shit real quick because he want to talk about a few things.
Before we move on, I want to talk about that happened. There was a cyber attack the same week, or maybe the week after. Not. Oh, okay. Right after this CISPA, we mentioned it last week. The Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act just went through Congress. I don't know if there's still another step, if it needs to go through the House, or if it's officially a law, or if it's on the books now. But I mean, it looked like it's going to go through. If there is another step, it looks like it's going to go through. And I'm sorry, y'all. What that basically means is government officials or whoever these people are. I always have a hard time identifying who the culprit is. But they can now watch your Facebook. You know, they can now check your emails, or I don't know the extent of it, but they can watch your internet activity and they can get a better idea of your spending habits, of your friends, or the type of things you like to talk about on social networks. And they can categorize you, you know, and for Homeland Security, they can deem you whether or not you're a threat to national security based off of the amount of, you know, the topics and the things that you use the internet for. So I'm like, why? It's I guess it's pretty interesting that, you know, the same time that this act was passed or is on the verge of passing, the same time the White House, you know, sustains a pretty you know, pretty big blow as far as its internet security or its electronic security. So the timing of everything is just something that I'm paying attention to, and I would like to ask all of you listeners, American citizens of the planet Earth to pay attention and to watch for inconsistencies and turn the damn TV off sometimes. So yeah, I like the way this is worded. If y'all don't mind, we're going to go ahead and switch it a little bit because I ain't got too much to say about that because I haven't done enough reading on that particular subject. But now we want to talk about this system of sick care. Okay, you might not have heard the term, and you might be used to calling it health care. I think if you call it the sick care system, it might give us a whole different perspective. We got Obamacare coming out. Matter of fact, I want to see what your brother got to say. I want him to go ahead and open it up because it was something that he brought to my attention yet again. But I think I might have a little more to say on this subject. What you got to say about it, Hudson?
First off, I call it the sick care system because it's based on people being sick. So doctors don't make money if you are well, if you are healthy. So they're taking time to diagnose different things, and they're creating new sicknesses and shit. They're pumping our kids full of drugs and shit to keep them acting like zombies in school, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. We got all types of new ailments popping up and shit, and these medicines all have terrible side effects. But I didn't necessarily want to get on that. We can get on that a little bit, but the piece that I want to talk about is, because last week I went into a story before I was able to actually get this point out. I hear everybody debating about the healthcare system and the bringing down the cost of healthcare, but I don't see nobody hitting on the point that the shit costs too much. Healthcare or sick care is the only system that is not based on competition. Doctors are charging too much motherfucking money. If doctors had to compete against doctors, I'm guaranteeing that the prices would be lower. It's a fucking shame that individuals can go to the doctor and have their retirement intact and leave the doctor and don't have shit. That bothers me. That makes me sick. That's another reason I call it the sick care, because how can you go into a place and be charged? My son had a small surgery on his ear. They didn't even have to go nowhere near nothing dangerous. My insurance was supposed to cover it, but the bill ended up being $9,000 for them to put a small incision in his ear, which I shouldn't allow, a small incision in his ear, and take out a pit that was in his ear. with the anesthesia and me paying for the doctor at the Children's Hospital, it ended up costing $9,000. That's a fucking car. That's rent for a year and 2 months. That's a down payment on a house that I could rehab. That's a vacation to keep me and my wife from killing each other from the stress of living in this motherfucking country. And I'm wondering, why hasn't any of these politicians hit on the fact that doctors and hospitals are charging too much and have absolutely no competition and basically run a monopoly on the American public? Nobody is touching on this. The shit is irritating me. It bothers me. And I'm not going to say the system is broken. I'm just going to ask you people, just like I do, and I'm going to ask this several times. Brothers and sisters, why are we riding this horse? The shit is not broken. It's just old. Doctors need to compete, just like each one of you have to compete. If a doctor is not good, we will know. How? Because people will avoid his ass like the Asian flu. Period. And simple. He will fuck somebody up, and they will sue him, and it will be over. Doctors need to compete. I'm not saying their prices have to go down, because the best doctors will be able to charge the best money. But there's some mediocre doctors out there that could do some of these surgeries for little to no, I ain't gonna say little or no cost, but basically at a cheaper rate than what they are charging. These hospitals and these doctors got to start competing.
Excuse me, you did something that we often do on the show, and we often do in our personal lives as well. Challenge people to ask questions about why we accept things the way that they are. But I actually got an answer for that question. Why we continue to allow the healthcare system to basically fuck us is because the shit that make us sick is so delicious. I love Doritos. I ain't gonna say I love Wendy's, but I'm addicted to the shit. I love pizza and fast food. I love donuts and coffee. Yeah, I be getting my cop on sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I love to start off the morning with that extra sugar, you know what I'm saying? I'm invested in my own sickness because it's delicious. Ain't that about a bitch? I'm like, so I've actually experienced, cutting out a lot of Sorry about that inconvenience, ladies and gentlemen. We back. We had a little minor inconvenience. All internets are not created equal. Just like all doctors are not created equal, and all food is not created equal. So you got to do your research, Internet connection, I guess it's not bad. We had a couple minutes of dead air. Y'all love us, so y'all wait a couple minutes because y'all know we hood. We cutting edge on this hood shit. We do it from the hookah lounge. So, every now and then you might have to lose it every now and then. However, when we're talking about something as important as our very health, our very livelihood and well-being and the way we feel, that's a little bit of a bigger issue. So why is it that okay, I think of a better question. A better question is, are you really comfortable with trading those delicious Doritos and potato chips and fast food and those delicious foods? Are you comfortable trading that for being able to walk and move freely as you want when you're 70? Because I've been seeing some things lately. I've been seeing 70 and 80-year-old people. I'm not meeting them in person. But, Facebook is a powerful drug. And you get to see a lot of things on Facebook and social media. I'm seeing some people that are 70 and 80 years old that are in better physical condition than I might have ever been in my life. So what is their secret? And is that something that we desire? Is it worth it? Is it worth it to go ahead and just, what do you call it? zone out, veg out, binge out, whatever you want to call it. Is it worth it to do that, to trade off? Because everybody ain't going to just die. Some of us just going to live real fucked up, unhealthy, unsatisfying lives later on in our lives. And then we're going to have to go to the doctor and pay all this money for the doctor. And then we ain't, we probably might be retired and might not have money to afford $9,000. And me personally, I haven't been to the doctor very often. So I'm out here, I'm living off of exercise. I go get a sweat and eat some collard greens. And I'm better. Or I better be.
Now the question is, are we addicted? Are we in love with it, or are we addicted? Because a lot of this food that we eat is designed to keep us eating, and to keep us eating. Because like I said, there's several things that I'm addicted to that I know is killing me. So maybe you're right about that. Delicious. What y'all think out there? You know what I'm saying? Are these foods and all these things that make us sick so delicious that we want to be sick? We desire to be sick more than we desire to be healthy. Now, I'm going to take a couple-minute break, let you hear something from Orange 82. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Something from Orange 82. I'm gonna get some more music up in here so y'all can sample it, and it'll be posted on Spreaker as well as my YouTube station. So come in and tune in with us. But to end our last conversation, I'm gonna just say fuck the sick care system, and I'm also gonna say this: doctors need to compete. There need to be some type of competition so that we can see the quality of some of these healthcare professionals, so that we could decide on whether I am going to have someone mediocre working on my hernia, or I'm going to pay for the best. And I'm going to be willing to pay the price because I know it's going to be a higher price. But if I got a simple surgery, like somebody pulling a pit out my ear, shit, the barber might have been cheaper, back in the day, surgeons were barbers and shit. Barbers were surgeons. That's why they got that white and red stripe outside the barber shop. So at least they used to have. But on to the next thing. I want to talk about terrorism a little bit because, you know, America has been hit by terrorism. And if y'all notice, there's been a whole bunch of mysterious bombings all over the country. I ain't going to say bombings, mysterious mistakes. And the more I hear this story of the terrorists, the more concerned I become. Because all this information is coming out and they get this information so quick. But let me present this fact to my listeners. Those of you on the journey, we are thinking people. And I'm not one to get into conspiracies. I'm not one to say that the government did this. I'm not one to say any of that shit. But I have to ask this question. How could motherfuckers plan so diligently to plant a bomb at the Boston Marathon, build bombs, put them together, have them blow up in a synchronized fashion, cause mass hysteria and madness, get away freely from the scene, and don't have a clear escape plan to get the fuck out of Boston? How do you do that shit? You know what I'm saying? I mean, listen, I'm not the best of planners, but one thing I put together pretty well is an escape strategy. You know what I'm saying? I know how to get out of some shit. If I was to blow up something in Columbus, I won't be in Columbus within the next hour and a half. Matter of fact, I might not even be in Ohio within the next 2.5 hours. I will be on the expressway looking innocent as fuck. So my question is, how could these two brothers plan this so diligently, work it out to perfection, get away with some small images, and all of a sudden get caught in a shootout less than 3 days later, still in the same city where they had committed this atrocity? That don't sound crazy. Maybe they were crazy if they did it, because we still haven't come to the point of whether they did it or not. Like Quasi asked last week, where's due process? But am I the only one that this is striking this strange?
Oh man, that takes me in so many different directions. Let me stay focused. So, I guess my thought is, first of all, I gotta agree. How can you be that brilliant, or at least that well informed and spend that much time? You gotta learn how to make the bomb. You gotta take the time to build the bomb. You gotta get the things that you need to make the bomb. You know, and you gotta have a plan to like you said, synchronize. That was like a real synchronized event. But then get caught like 5 miles from where it happened. That don't make sense. That just don't add up to me. 3 days, exactly. 3 days later. 5
miles. That was They were able to get a mile, 1.2 miles per day. I mean, was the traffic that bad? You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, they jacked a motherfucker for a car. Now, I'm like this. Before you commit the crime, especially something at that level, and have plans to go to another city. I mean, think about this. They had explosives in the car planning to go to another city. So, they got these explosives, but they don't have sense enough to have a fucking car ready to go to New York the day of, that evening when total chaos was reigning, before all of the roadblocks came up, because, you know, I'm quite sure a lot of people was trying to get out of Boston at that time, and you could have just fit right into the crowd and been going and went straight to New York. Come on, man. I mean, I have questions. I mean, I'm something's not coming together there because, it was a warning that was sent out to New York that these boys was planning, or there was some plan to bomb Times Square. So this means they was planning this shit. You got to jack somebody for a car after you did this shit? You selling dope, right? I mean, they say the boy was selling dope, and it just came out that his friends got murdered. And this is the way his friends got murdered maybe a year or 2 years ago, right before 4 months before he went to Russia. They got caught by the drug dealers in a house. Each one of them was murdered with their throat cut from ear to ear with weed sprinkled on them. In the house was thousands of dollars of cash. Now, this motherfucker knew other drug dealers, since he was going ballistic, that he could have killed to get that money if he needed it. He didn't even have to jack a car. He could have bought an old, used car for $2,000 and made it to New York, left that motherfucker in Times Square and let that shit blow up. How did he get caught 5 miles away from his house? Was he saying goodbye? You know what I'm saying? Did he stop over his girlfriend's house? You know what I'm saying? Or maybe the weed was just that good that they could just sit around and smoke weed and then all of a sudden get caught. Come on, it's bothering me.
Because, I mean, there is a thing called suicide bombers, If you plan on doing it and getting caught and killed possibly 3 days later, then why not just take your own life and make an even greater point? Like, if that would have been if those two dudes would have died doing that, they would have made a much greater point. It would have been a much larger controversy. It would have been, people would have really been talking about that shit. It would have been a different conversation. They'd be like, yo, they really believed in something. I don't care what you say. If a person explode their self to get you, then they really wanted to get your ass. You know what I'm saying? And that was all that mattered, was getting you or getting whoever they wanted to get. And they didn't do that. They got caught 3 days later in the same vicinity. And another thing that keep coming up is like, okay, I heard conflicting stories about the carjack. I heard conflicting stories about them supposedly robbing a convenience store, and then it's not happened. Then I heard that it absolutely didn't happen. They didn't rob a convenience store. But then today I saw in the news that they was talking about what they did right before and after they robbed the convenience store. I'm like, it's just too much false information being put out there, and it's almost like somebody just wants me talking about it. Like maybe there's something greater going on that they want to keep me distracted from. And then when I do my research, I seen a little bit. I'm starting to pay attention to FEMA and Homeland Security, and they got tanks. They got tanks and about 300 million hollow tip bullets for AR-15s.
You figure too low. They got $1 billion. They bought so many hollow point bullets that now it's hard for American citizens to go out and buy them. There was a newscast 4 weeks ago. I'm just, that's the estimate, where the big news was that Homeland Security had bought so many hollow point bullets that it was hard to get them, that weapon stores couldn't keep them in stock because they was buying them from the source. What the fuck you need $1 billion bullets for? Go to the point that you raised earlier about the what you said about the news report in 2009 that you said Obama said.
Okay, so I didn't get a chance to research this as much as I wanted to, but I read a couple articles that was talking about President Barack Obama said that in order to be a high-ranking military official in his army or in his armed forces, you must be willing to open fire on American citizens. He said that. I've seen it in several sources, several credible, I'm doing the finger quotation, credible sources, so maybe, I don't know, who knows. But from what I can see, if I'll put it like this. If I'm gonna take the word of media and the news And if I believe that what happened in Boston is anywhere close to the truth, then I also must believe that the president said those words, because the same news publications and even other news publications, you can barely find any news publication that hasn't written about that. Any high-ranking military official in Obama's armed services must be willing to open fire on American citizens. And they bought 100 million hollow tip bullets. And you know your boy Quasi, I'm up on my rights. You know, I am very much about the right to bear arms. I practice and I observe that right. So, you know, I done been to the gun store a couple times. I like to make sure I have ammo, you know. I like to practice, go to the range. And I also like to do my studying, because one thing I know as being a certified, I have several different certifications as far as being a gun owner, and you know the type of. I'm not gonna get too much into that, but one thing that I've learned is the difference between a full metal jacket and a hollow tip round. A full metal jacket is just your basic cheap bullet, and it's a dummy. It'll keep going until it runs out of steam. It'll go through 10 bodies or however many bodies before it stops. And a lot of those 10 people probably are going to live. They're not going to be life-threatening injuries. There's a less likelihood, because the bullet's just going to pass through. You're going to have a lot better chance of healing, as opposed to a hollow tip bullet. It's going to stop in a person's body. Once it hits and meets flesh, it's going to stop, and it's going to break up and expand and make sure that it lodges in whatever it hits. It's going to be harder to remove. It's going to be a lot more likely to cause infection. It's going to be a lot more likely to dismantle whatever it hits and make whatever it hits just stop working. If it's an organ, it's over for that organ. So hollow tip bullets are made to kill. Why does our government need that many weapons, that much ammo for the type of weapons that they're trying to take from us?
Not only that, not just the government, because in the military, you possibly need that. Military that's designed to protect and to go out and to colonize or empire build. But why would an agency that is deemed responsible for what's going on our shores need that type of weapon? I'm gonna move the point on. We come back to that. You know, that's plenty of material that we got forever. You know what I'm saying? Asking these questions and trying to get y'all to think. But now I want to go to the building of a terrorist. Because the reason I brought the terrorist piece up, because I want people to understand. Because one of the things that's been bothering me is that a lot of people that terrorism in a sense is new to, they only equate it with Islam. And Islam is not the only religion that builds terrorists. Terrorism goes way back in world history. We just start putting the term terrorism on it. But if we really want to be honest about it, when we look at America, the first, in a sense, terrorists were the colonists who rose up against the British Empire. So our whole country, in a sense, is built up on that. Although people who practice the religion of America will be upset with me for saying that, but the bottom line is they was going against the status quo. Now, I'm not saying this to hype up terrorism, but in order to build up a terrorist, you got to have a narrative. That's why I develop folklores for grown folks, so that we can understand that stories are not just for kids. Stories motivate us in life. And when you build in a terrorist, you got to have a narrative that they buy into. And this narrative is usually one of, as Quasi call it, one of depressions, depression, oppression, suppression is going on, and you are the hero who is rising up against this oppression and pressing back. Now, one of the things I said last week was that in order to stop a terrorist, what you have to do is give them something to live for. You have to eliminate the narrative or change the narrative. Dropping bombs on a group of motherfuckers don't change the narrative. As a matter of fact, it intensifies the narrative that they're telling. Because when you attack somebody in violence, all you do is basically help them build up the narrative of you being a big bully. Now, I want y'all to think about this. When Bin Laden was killed, what did they do with his body?
I'm not sure. What? Enlighten me.
When Bin Laden was murdered, they supposedly took his body out on a Navy ship, went to an undesignated place in the ocean, and gave him a proper burial. They dropped him in the middle of the sea. Do you know why?
I do not.
They dropped him in the middle of the sea so that no one would be able to find his burial spot, so that people would not be able to gather around and basically have a central location where they could go see their hero. They, in essence, destroyed or was trying to destroy the narrative. When you hear them talk about Bin Laden, when you hear them talk about terrorists, listen for that word, narrative. That's a fancy word that's for story. Now, narratives are handy for each of us, not just for terrorists. Narratives are handy tools that for you to use. Why? Because these narratives give you something to live towards. It's a story that you could tell yourself to justify all your actions in your life. Some of the narratives that's being sold to our kids are not ones of terrorism, but the American dream of becoming that professional basketball player or football player or becoming that rapper, being able to just to take money and just waste it. That's a narrative. That's a story that's being told to us. So we got to understand that in order to build a terrorist, there has to be a narrative. In order to stop terrorism, you have to change the narrative and give somebody something to live for rather than something to die for and to take your ass with them. Now, we are in the last minute, and this is Brother Hatim. We're going to sign off. I wanted to hit on education, but I won't. But I'll end at the education piece with brother and sisters, why are we riding that horse? All right. But Kwesi, go on, give him some last words before I put the music up.
Don't be a terrorist. Or at least if you want to be, understand that they are coming for your ass. But with that being said, we have some decisions to make. What do you stand for? Martin Luther King said, if you're not willing to die for something, then you are not living. Those might not have been his exact words, but the question is, what are you living for? Are you willing to give up everything? That's the question.
This is Brother Hatim and Brother Kwesi Lowe signing out, and we'd like to thank y'all for listening. Be sure to check us out on FreeStyle Fridays. You also can check us out on YouTube. Go on and support the journey so that we keep on doing what we do and get better and better, and may you grow with us. So I hope that your evening or your day or your morning or whenever you're listening to this is as beautiful as you are. Peace.